So, one of my friends asked me, and it was really, I suppose, a serious turning point, if we ever got married, if I would ever regret not having become a priest. She asked me that question, and that was the turning point. To say that southern United States is very much like Jamaica. It's a Bible belt. And so the Christian faith was a dominant feature of our lives. And so we were always thinking and doing in light of what is God going to say or do. And although my mother and father were not married, and that was problematic for the church in those days in wanting to become a priest, because if your mother and father were not married, you were not permitted to pursue the priesthood. And so that was one of the blocks to my entering the seminary at the age of 13, thank God. Eventually very happy that I did not. But entering high school, my dad was a disciplinarian, of course, having been in the Marine Corps. And we had a business, a service station. And so on weekends, although I wasn't always living with him and his wife, I had to be at work. On Saturday mornings, from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. So that's no going out. And in the summertime, Monday to Saturday, 9 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, working in my dad's service station. Sunday morning, Mass. And so it was an extremely disciplined life. So when I wanted to go out, no, Walter, you have to work. If I wanted to go to a party with high school, no, you have to work. I'm grateful for that, having been an African American, because they knew what I did not know. I could easily have lost my life in those days. When I look back on what happened to other African American young men who lived in the area who didn't have the father in their lives as I did, many of them ended up in prison, murdered, alcohol addictions, drug addictions, lost. And many of them were quite brilliant, far more brilliant than I would ever hope to be. And just because of that lack of supervision in their lives from a father, it caused some of them to fall off the deep end. And so my party days were delayed until I got into university. And it was, again, leaving high school, going to the seminary. Of course, none of that either. So it was when I left the Josephite Fathers after about 5 years with the Josephite Fathers. And it was during that time that I started not only graduate school and working and so forth, but party hardy, as we'd say. And so that would have been somewhere around the age of 25, I suppose. And which would be somewhat late, but early enough for me to discover that it just was not satisfying. And I found it quite dissatisfying, as a matter of fact. In those days I had hair, an afro, so you dance the night away. And get home. In those days, it was Donna Summer who was the discotheque queen, huh? So you're dancing the night away to, forgot some of the things that Donna Summer would sing, but you'd dance from 10 o'clock at night until 2 o'clock in the morning. And then you'd go home and you're smelling smoke in your hair. And but thank God, all of that is gone now. So, so yes, it was just I enjoyed the time with friends and so forth. But at some particular point, as I moved toward, say, 26, 27, 28, 29, I got tired and I wanted a serious relationship with the Lord and let it go. Yes. Yeah. I've had some tremendous struggles. And clearly, I didn't understand what I was going through when I lived in the United States, that when I felt that what I wanted professionally, I tried at one point to enter the doctoral program in philosophy at Rice University in Houston, and so I had spoken with the director of the department about my starting something. He was asking what I was interested in, and I told him I had done something in university, undergraduate university in philosophy, and I was working at the same time at the Southwestern Bell Telephone Company, but I think that I was just trying to do too much. I don't know, but I became extremely exhausted. Working, going to classes in the evenings, and I would always ride my bicycle from one place to the next in Houston. And I ended up in the hospital. And I was in the hospital for a whole week. And the doctors just told me to rest. And I realized that must be a part of my personality, because I remember that same grandmother telling me when I was in high school, she said, you're not going to live very long. And I said, why do you say that? We called her Big Mama. And she said, you work too hard. But I do take the moments to listen to the Lord. In the evenings, I will walk in the parking lot of the church at St. Teresa, and I will pray the rosary and spend moments with the Lord. So when I don't know what happened to that desire to move into that doctoral program in philosophy, I just never went back to Rice Universities. Maybe I was embarrassed that I had not consistently met with the director of the program, but I was disappointed with myself, and I asked the Lord, what is it that He wants from me? And because that is what I wanted, but obviously it was not what the Lord wanted. And so I remember going to this place, I don't remember where it was, and I could type very fast and very well. And I passed the typing exam in some typing pool, but all of the people in the place were women. And the director of the place said, she looked at my resume, she said, but Walter, all of your work has been in service, social service, counseling. I don't think you would be happy here. And all I could think was, I need a job. And anyway, she didn't hire me. And it was getting cold in Washington, so I went back down to the south, to New Orleans, Louisiana. And a friend of mine there was able to get me on with Charity Hospital, where I worked for 2 or 3 years, working with a detox center for alcoholism and drug abuse. And it was from there that I applied to the program in Master of Social Work at Tulane University. And there began to find my way again. And I began to discover that the Lord was putting steps in place for me to find my way back to Him. Eventually getting that master's and going back to Houston and working, as I think I said earlier, at the Texas Rehabilitation Commission, the Kidney Foundation of Houston, Boy Scouts of America, and then discovering the Benedictines, because I discovered that I really wasn't happy. I wanted more. And these things were not giving me what I wanted. Even though I enjoyed counseling, I wanted to be able to give more. I had not known at that time of pastoral theology, but I realized that after having studied psychology and social work and so forth, that something was missing. And it was after having come to Jamaica, working on a master's degree in theology, that I discovered pastoral theology and eventually got a master's in theology and said, this is where it comes together for pastoral psychology and pastoral theology, to bring not only the psychological knowledge, but also the even more important spiritual direction. And that helped me essentially. You know, at this point in my life, I'm really living for God. At this point. Some years before, I was living for myself. Clearly, absolutely selfish. I would give nothing to anyone. Jamaicans call it mean. I was so mean. And I really thought I was imitating my dad because of the way that he would, if I wanted something from my dad, he said, well, Walter, you have to work. And I didn't see him give anybody anything as such, other than employment, until I discovered at my dad's death, going into his desk drawer and seeing hundreds of checks written to this person and that person, helping this youngster to get through high school or university. Oh my God. And even when he was in the hospital, seeing my dad, a young lady came in while he was a few days or so before he died, thanking him for having paid her tuition at the same university that I had graduated from 20 years earlier. He paid $3,000 US dollars to pay for her tuition at Xavier University. And she was thanking him for that. I said, my goodness, why don't you give me some of that money? but clearly I didn't need it, because he gave me so much more. And so I began to discover that I am happiest when I am giving of myself to others, for them to know, to grow in a relationship with the Lord. And sometimes that may begin with giving someone $1,000 or giving someone food. And so at this point in my life, yes, I am just living for God. And of course, I certainly discovered too that, I would, during the moments, it's interesting, someone in graduate school said to me, Walter, I don't think you could love anybody. And I said, what? What are you talking about? I remember the guy's face. I think his name was Bob. But, I didn't pay any attention to him at the moment. But, over the years, I thought about it because I really was very selfish. And I would not make any more money than I worked for because I wouldn't give anything to anybody. And it was only after I discovered how to give of myself, especially what in some instances was most important, it was my money, that I discovered that God was giving me so much more. And And of course now I just give and I give and I give. And it's obviously rooted in an experience of knowing that I am deeply loved by God. And, no matter what anybody thinks or says or anything of that sort, it's just really amazing, how you move from being so fearful to of what people are going to say or think to, hey, I have only one person to please, and that is the Lord. And I ask him to help me to think and to act accordingly, to please him and to please him alone.